Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and it's time for Patron Week, where I cover archetypes chosen by my supporters who go the extra mile in keeping this channel going. And for this month's poll, they selected another theme that's part of my favorite category, TCG Exclusives. Now, while these themes have swung wildly between meta-defining and hot garbage, today's subject has been good. Just good. Like B plus good. Everyone, meet Time Thieves, a group of cards that are here to make rank 4s and not afraid of anything, especially the consequences of time travel. Now, finding a way to translate cause and effect from a temporally displaced perspective into game mechanics would be difficult at the best of times, but thankfully, we're focused more on the thief part, which has a surprising amount of details to reward those who love poring over those compositions, like yours truly. So let's wind back the clock so we can check out our cards from the beginning, see how these daring chrononauts travel, then see if we have time to pick up any companions. Strap yourselves in because we're going back to the Time Thieves. But before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and there's no better way to get there than on our duel runners. Our next stop is 30k, where we'll have Jack Atlas Explained, which includes Resonators, Red Dragon Archfiend, and whatever other cards were used by the Master of Foster. We've also got our Discord, where we're all staunch advocates of returning to Frog. I'm also on Twitch, where you can join me for viewer duels and progression pools, and don't forget about my Patreon, where you can gain access to my videos early, reach some of these milestones, as well as helping to determine which explained videos I make. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So, what's the deal with Time Thieves? Well, they're a series of level or rank 4 dark attribute monsters that are either psychic or machine type, the former being the Time Thieves proper, while the machines are their various gadgets. No relation. They make very effective material for accessing the rank 4 toolbox, but when it comes to our own cards, we love to steal our opponents, usually in the form of tucking them under our Xyz monsters as material. Let's start with our main deck monsters. Time Thief Winder is a psychic monster with 1800 attack and 1300 defense, and you can detach a material from an Xyz monster you control to special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Time Thief card from your deck to your hand. They're an absolutely incredible extender, especially since most Xyz monsters can only use their effects once per turn, so they'll have a spare material left over for Winder to borrow, who can then search you a card to get you into another rank 4. So rather than winding down, it helps get your game plan all wound up. Time Thief Adjuster is a psychic monster with 1200 attack and 1800 defense, and if you normal or special summon any number of Time Thief monsters except a copy of this card, and except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Time Thief card from your deck to the grave. However, you can only use one effective Adjuster per turn, and only once per turn. It is frustrating that you can't get both, like with Winder, but Adjuster can still serve multiple purposes. They're an on-theme Kage to Kage, but if they're by themselves, you can set up your grave with machines, who have various ways of special summoning themselves from the grave. But we also get a glimpse into, well, I hesitate to say origin of the Time Thieves, because it seems like we're dealing with a closed time loop, as Adjuster is being instructed on how to make their signature time gloves by an older version of themselves. Ooh boy, I can feel the timelines breaking already. Time Thief Bezel Ship is a machine monster with 1000 attack and 2000 defense, and as a quick effect, you can tribute this card, then target a Time Thief Xyz monster you control. On resolution, you attach a card from your opponent's grave to that monster as Xyz material, and if this card is in the grave, you can detach a material from an Xyz monster you control to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. This condition will crop up fairly often with the machine Time Thieves, and while I wouldn't say it's fortunate, it's good that Xyz are very well equipped to deal with that condition because of gameplay mechanics. If a card that's set to be banished when it leaves the field becomes Xyz material, well, they're not countered as leaving the field, but it is no longer on the field once they're material, so when they're detached, they go right back to the grave so you can use them again. Now, it might seem weird that you can tribute Bezel Ship to put a material under one of your monsters, just to detach one to bring Bezel back, but it's less about the raw number of material you have, and more about the types of material you have. So, in this story, it's our own little TARDIS. though in our case it stands for Time and Relative Dueling in space. Time Thief Chrono Quarter is a machine monster with 1000 attack and defense, and during your opponent's battle phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute this card, and the next battle damage you take from an opponent's monster's attack this turn is inflicted on your opponent instead. And if a face-up Xyz monster you control leaves the field by a card effect while this card is in the grave, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Now, that first effect sounds hella busted, but it's always going to be incredibly telegraphed. Since Chrono Quarter tributes itself, if you do it in response to an attack, it'll just cause a replay, so your opponent can make the decision to not run into a lot of damage, or at the very least, minimize the damage as much as possible. The best it can do is punish your opponent for getting rid of a must-answer monster of yours, though it could also dissuade your opponent from attacking for game if their life points are low enough, so it does have its usages, even if they are incredibly situational. Though its revival effect is pretty good, because removing Xyz monsters from the field by an effect happens very often with Springans, the generic Xyz monster of choice. Time Thief Regulator is a machine monster with 600 attack and 200 defense, and if you control no other monsters, you can tribute this card to special summon 2 Time Thief monsters with different names from your deck in defense position, except another copy of itself. And when an Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle while this card is in the grave, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. One card Xyz summons are pretty neat, and if you happen to have another monster on field, thus keeping its effect locked down, there's a chance it's because you have another level 4 to pair with it. Its replacement effect is the least useful of the bunch, since we don't really have any synergies with our Xyz monsters being destroyed in battle, but it's nice to have a blocker just in case. More importantly, its first effect can summon both Winder and Adjuster, getting both of their effects simultaneously, though you can also summon some of your machines if those effects have been used to get them into rotation. It's like they say, Regulator is a Time Thief's best friend. Time Thief Tempor Whale is a machine monster with 800 attack and 1400 defense, and you can tribute this card, then target a monster your opponent controls and banish it until the end phase. And if this card is in the grave, you can target a Time Thief monster you control, except a copy of itself, and return it to the hand. And if you do, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. This one actually has one of our best revival effects, as it lets you reuse Winder and Adjuster. Heck, if you normal summon Adjuster without using its second effect, and Tempor Whale is already in the grave, you can bounce the Adjuster back to your hand to summon Tempor Whale, and because it was in the hand when Tempor Whale was summoned, you can summon Adjuster onto the field. In fact, it might go some ways as to explaining why you can't use both effects in a single turn. One could imagine that if you could foolish the Tempor Whale on Adjuster's summon, bounce it, and then resummon it after Tempor Whale is summoned, it might get out of hand. Let's also not forget the temporary banishing effect, as it's a great way to clear the field of threats or to make way for direct attacks. And it doesn't even cost you that much, it's just a tribute, so it's the cheapest way in the nerdosphere to whale. Alright, that's all of our main deck monsters, now it's time for our Xyz, and this first one is very famous. Time Thief Redoer is a psychic monster with 2400 attack and 2000 defense, requiring 2 level 4 monsters as material. And once per turn during the standby phase, you can attach the top card of your opponent's deck to this card as material. And as a quick effect, you can detach up to 3 different types of material from this card, then apply the following effects depending on what you detached. If it was a monster, you can banish this card until the end phase. If it's a spell card, you draw a card. And if it's a trap card, you place a face-up card your opponent controls on the top of the deck. So each turn, Redoer gets a free material, and half the fun is finding out what kind of effect you get. Inherently, it'll be able to sidestep the field to avoid danger, while the other effects are going to require a bit of work from our other Time Thief effects, or a little luck from Redoer. And because it could use generic material, and was a dark monster, that made Redoer an attractive extra deck option for its resilience and flexibility. And trivia note, you can see the folded up version of Chrono Quarter on Redoer's hip, which you can also see in Adjusted's art, making that the second most interesting piece of environmental storytelling in this art. The first, that Redoer is a huge weeb. You think that cloak is more Zero or Captain Harlock. Time Thief Perpetua is a psychic monster with 1900 attack and 2500 defense, requiring 2 level 4 monsters as material. And during the standby phase, you can detach a material from this card, then target a Time Thief monster from your grave, except a copy of itself, and special summon it. And as a quick effect, you can target one other Xyz monster you control and attach a Time Thief card from your deck to it as material. Now, notice how it doesn't say target a Time Thief Xyz monster, so you can recharge any other Xyz monster you control, though you do get a lot more mileage out of adding material to Redoer, as you're gaining a lot more control over their effects. And you can do this on both players' turns, so you'll be ready for whatever comes your way, especially if Redoer ended up in the grave, since Perpetua can revive him, an effect that you can also use on both players' standby phase. No wonder the other Time Thieves went to all that effort to save Perpetua throughout time. This effect is good. Time Thief Double Barrel is a psychic monster with 2200 attack and defense, requiring 2 level 4 monsters as material. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can detach up to 3 different types of material from this card, then apply the following effects depending on what was detached. For a monster, Double Barrel gains 400 attack. For a spell, you can take control of a face-up monster your opponent controls until the end phase, but it can't declare an attack nor activate its effects. And for a trap, you can negate the effects of an effect monster on the field until the end of the turn. Now, this one isn't quite as good as Redoer, partly owing to the fact that it doesn't have its own way to absorb material. If you want anything outside the attack gain, you're gonna have to focus on Time Thieves and Time Thief accessories. And while the activation condition is a lot more limited, the effects can actually be severely punishing. If they activate a monster effect on the field, detaching a trap card material will take it out, even if that monster has targeting protection, because none of Double Barrel's effects target. And by detaching a spell card, you can just Change of Heart one of your opponent's monsters, though you'll want to use them as material as soon as possible, since you can't really use it for anything else. Suffice it to say, paired with Perpetua's ability to assign material, Double Barrel makes for a great problem solver, even if a lot of its restrictions have you over a barrel. Alright, that's all the extra deck monsters. Now it's time for the spells and traps. Time Thief Startup is a quick play spell that special summons a Time Thief monster from your hand, and during your main phase you can banish this card from your grave, then target a Time Thief Xyz monster you control and attach 3 Time Thief cards of different types from your grave to that monster as material. Summoning a monster from hand is kinda underwhelming, but does help turbo out material from a monster clogged hand. And since it can be used on your opponent's turn, you can use the on-summon effects of Winder and Adjuster on your opponent's turns if you drew multiple, letting you get double value and more blockers. And the grave effect isn't too bad either, though you will need a properly set up grave, as it doesn't say up to 3 types, so you will need to have all 3 available. However, if you do, Redoer and Double Barrel will be loaded up with all their effects, and Perpetua's going to be able to revive monsters for a lot more turns. And don't think I forgot about the lore, because there's a lot to pick through here. Front and center, we can see adult Perpetua with a photo of them and their parents in the background while they're a child. We've got Regulator here, as well as a folded up chronocorder that seems to be the future end that's transmitting information to Teen Perpetua. Not only about how to make the time glove, but also how to put on a coat properly, the most important skill for any accomplished scientist. Time Thief Hack is a continuous spell that prevents your Xyz monsters you control from being destroyed or targeted by an opponent's card effect the turn they're special summoned. Note that this says when they're special summoned, not returned to the field, so Redoer coming back isn't going to refresh this form. Also, once per turn, you can target a face-up Xyz monster you control, and it gains 300 attack for each material currently attached to it until the end of the turn, and if it does, and it has a material that is owned by your opponent, it can attack directly, even if this card leaves the field. The fact that this card works on Xyz monsters in general is actually really neat. It means all of your utility Xyz can do their work unimpeded, and with the right timing, they can get a 600 attack boost for the rest of the turn, a not insignificant amount. Even looking at our own cards, Redoer gets up to 3000, and outside of that, Abyss Dweller can be 23 or 2800 depending on their Xyz material. Black Ship of Corn goes up to 2700, increasing the range of monsters it can send to the grave, and Heartland Draco becomes a 2600 attack point monster that can attack directly. And bonus, Hack is a face-up spell card that prevents Heartland Draco from being targeted for attacks. We also get to see what looks like a group of assailants trying to gun down Child Perpetua. What in the world is going on here? Is this some kind of we need to stop Perpetua from developing time travel thing? Are there parents behind the point of view and they're the real targets? It's a good thing Winder is here to make the save, because otherwise I think this would be a lost art card very quickly. Time Thief Flyback is a normal trap card that targets a Time Thief Xyz monster you control and attaches a Time Thief card from your hand or deck to it as material. And while in the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, then target a Time Thief Xyz monster you control and attach a card from your opponent's grave to it as material. So when using its on-field effect, you have a lot more control over the kinds of material you have access to, but on the whole, the grave effect is much stronger. Not only does it not result in a -1, it also works as some stealth graveyard disruption, because since it's a trap card, you can use it at any time. Did your opponent just banish a Fog Blade to summon back a Phantom Knight? Just tuck it under your Xyz. Did they summon Kagari looking to get back and engage? Well, that's going right under your Xyz. Is Sulquidius eyeing Manifestation using its floating effect? Not anymore. I've gotta say, if you have a good way of getting this into the grave, this card's pretty fly. Our last card is Time Thief Retrograde, a continuous trap. A counter trap that can be activated in response to a spell or trap card activation while you control a Time Thief Xyz monster. The activation is negated, and if you do, attach that card to a Time Thief Xyz monster you control as material. It'd be a lot better if it handled monster effects as well, but I guess we can play some Solemn cards to compensate. And having another way to put the best material under your Time Thieves is pretty excellent. But what I want to focus on is the art, specifically the fact that there are actual honest-to-goodness dates provided here. The departure time is listed as Friday the 25th of October in the year 2041, with the arrival date listed as Time Hack being Sunday the 20th of May in the year 2012, making this a roughly 29-year difference. The arrival date doesn't seem to have any significance in our time, except both are dates that solar eclipses occur on, which does imply that that's needed to make the time travel function. Now, while Time Hack is probably the general name for their version of time travel, it sounds a lot like the card Time Thief Hack, linking their arrival date to when Child Perpetua was attacked by the mysterious assailants. This solidifies a series of events where Winder and Redoer are sent back in time to save Perpetua at 2 different times, once while they're a kid and another when they're a teen. I'm honestly not sure where Flyback is on this weird timeline. Both times being attacked by a group of ill-defined attackers. At that point, Perpetua is coached by their future self into creating the time-manipulating technology that allows Perpetua to send Winder and Redoer back in time to save Perpetua's past selves, and at some point S-Force or a Fist shows up to stop Redoer. Like, sure, they're called thieves, but we don't get any visuals on what exactly they're stealing. Heck, it could just be a snappy name, like maybe the only thing they're stealing is time, which would mean that the only thing Aurifist is stopping is the rescue of a defenseless child. Yeah, real hero work there, S-Force. You're a credit to the community. Alright, so that's all the Time Thief cards, but what do we do with them? Well, having such a wide range of effects at our disposal means we can make use of a ton of playstyles. Really, the only thing outside of our purview is control. Otherwise, we can play an aggro-focused build that wants to end games quickly with Utopia Double, a mid-range strat that wants to outvalue our opponent with Tornado Dragon and Utopic Draco Future, to everything in between. But what can we play to help them out? Looking for ways to get more non-monster material under your Time Thieves? Then look no further than Overlay Regen. This gets you Redoer's Draw and Double Barrel's Widow Anchor effect, and if you bring either of them back with Xyz Reborn, then you can grab the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast and Breakthrough skill effects respectively. Phantom Knights are another dark theme that loves to Xyz summon, so they'll get along with us just nicely. While they primarily operate in rank 3s, they have quite a few useful cards that can help out our rank 4 plays, not least of which being Shade Brigandine. Having a trap monster as material is exceptionally powerful for Redoer, and a bonus, you gain access to all kinds of other useful utility cards like Wings and Fogblade. Suggesting the Adventure Engine is a bit gauche considering the price point, but if we have a good way of raising the ceiling of our deck, it's worth mentioning just in case you're not playing in paper. While our effects can trigger on normal summon, we'll want to try and avoid that as much as possible, and Startup is going to be a ton of help in that regard. And if we wanted to add a little Time Thief spin to the Adventure Engine, try adding a copy of Magicore Warrior of Relics. It's searchable off Fateful Adventure, and it's a free level 4 you can summon if you control an adventure token. Further bonus, this can net you a Breath of Resurrection, which can not only summon back 2 monsters from your grave, but can rescue a Draco back that's stuck in your grave. The monsters you summon back will be banished if they leave the field, but as we mentioned earlier, we just don't care. I joked about Springans earlier in the video, but I cannot overstate just how well these two themes mesh. Both are based around Xyz monsters that warp on and off the field almost at whim, which not only triggers Chrono Quarter's revival, they also trigger Springan's booty, which can negate monster effects. Time Thieves also lack a dedicated field spell, so until such times as that changes, they don't conflict with Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda, which will get you those Springan's Xyz without chewing up material for your other rank 4s. Fire and Dark may seem like a strange combination, but if Splite can make it work, anyone can. With the slew of rank 4s you can make, getting the material together for Utopic Future, and thus Utopic Draco Future, should be a breeze. But if you need a little extra help, go ahead and slot in Gaga Magician. They can revive another one of your rank 4s out of the graveyard. It also comes with a little bit of extra utility, because as material, Gaga Magician can have Utopic Draco Future trade in its protections and monster effect negation to turn it into an obelisk. As for a silly tech pick, an interesting rank 4 you can try if you don't want to get bogged down by the Utopia double package is Raider's Knight. Primarily, you can use it to make Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, which can negate a whole board of monsters, gain a bunch of attack, and can't be destroyed by card effects for what that's worth. Alternatively, you can flex Raider's Knight into Raid Raptor Blaze Falcon to wipe out a bunch of special summon monsters at once, Stranger Falcon to use the best Ring of Destruction currently available, or Break Sword for straight up removal. And that's all I have to say about Time Thieves. This deck has phenomenal potential, as it not only has its own strong game plan, but can flex into a ton of currently available rank 4s, and has the potential to get even better whenever new ones are released. Any deck that can set up a boss monster that's hard to interact with profitably is worth taking a look at, and considering the deck's price point, you can pick it up for a steal. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Have Time Thieves made out like Time Bandits, or has the clock run out on them? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to show your support, ring that bell so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Ashling Waltz, Nebula Navigators, 3rd Dynasty, Avagule, Adam Zagidel, Benjamin Meisner, Biohazard 011, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Howling Zangetsu, Inblink, Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Larakia, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Ruxith Sarani, Shooting Star 3300, The Fresh Prince of Con-Air, The Wizard Moose, Tyler Cranston and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Corbinisms, Cozy Boat 275, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Jesus Garcia, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Nitromo, RGS, Remti Bright, the Legendary Raven, and too much Desu, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people, so if you'd like to be a part of these credits, as well as help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you want to see another video of an archetype that's full of rank 4 enthusiasts, check out this video series I made on Automats and Utopia. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.